Hi, thanks for joining us today. Today I'm going to make some beef jerky. This is something I really like. It's a nice snack, but it's really expensive in the store. And the stuff they put in it, I just don't even like it. It's sweet, it's funny tasting, and the stuff is about $15 a pound. Now, I can make it a lot cheaper than that myself, and I don't need a dehydrator. You can make it right in your stove if you want. So let's get started. The first thing I use is some soy sauce, and this is just I'm going to make the marinade up first here. This is this La Choy stuff here. I wouldn't cook with this, but I use it for the marinade for the beef jerky, and it seems to work fine. So that's the bulk of the base. Now, the next thing I put in is some garlic powder, and probably a good, well, it depends on how garlicky you like it. I like it a lot, so about probably a teaspoon. Then I use onion powder, half a teaspoon. I use ground pepper. I like it peppery, so put plenty of fresh ground pepper in there. Now, I also like it with hot pepper. You know, this is a crushed red pepper, and so I put, I don't know, quarter of a teaspoon of that in there. Makes it a little spicy. And one other thing I don't have here is the Worcestershire sauce, and I use a good teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. Now this was, I guess we used about a half of a bottle of this, maybe 8 or 10 ounces of soy sauce. Then, just because I'm a little paranoid, I add a little extra salt. Now, if you're on a salt-restrictive diet, you probably might want to think twice about eating this stuff. That's about a teaspoon of salt. The last ingredient we use is liquid smoke. This stuff's pretty powerful. So I use, half a teaspoon. That'll be plenty. Now, I've got this all made up. Mix it up a little bit and let those spices rehydrate. While that's happening, I'm going to we're going to cut up the meat. Now, this is a piece of top round. It's usually you can buy it on sale, so it's not too expensive, $3 a pound or something like that. But the main thing is that it needs to be really lean. You don't want any fat in it, and the reason we don't want fat is fat isn't going to dry out the way the meat will, and it can go rancid. So we're going to have to cut this up. Now, one way to do it is to have your butcher slice it up for you, but I don't bother. I just grab it off the shelf and then I cut it up myself. I want to cut it at least a quarter of an inch thick, but not much more than that. So then So I always want to start with a nice sharp knife. And first thing I'm going to do is look at, there's a fat on the back. See? That's some stuff that's got to come off. So we just get under there with the tip of our knife. And this is where a sharp knife comes into play. And even though it's sharp, I always hit it with a hone every time I use it. And it's a lot easier. Now, as I'm cutting this, I'm noticing the grain of the meat. Meat has grain, just like the muscle, the direction of the muscle tissue. And the idea for beef jerky is, in order for it to be as tender as possible, we need to be cutting across the grain. If we cut with the grain, it's going to be stringy and harder to chew. Now we also want to remove this bit of silver that accompanies the fat, and we just carefully slice it off. We don't want to, you don't want to take too much of the meat off, but we don't want that stuff on there either. That's not going to dry out any better than the there. And then, so that's clean. Now the I'm looking at the grain of the meat, and I can see that it's going this way. So I'm going to cut it across here. Nice sharp knife. That's the key. Nice sharp knife. So we want to cut it 1/4 of an inch thick, just like that. Just like that. And this is nice. There's not much fat at all on this meat. I saw there was a little piece there for sale, and it was pretty cheap. So just carefully. Some people will take their meat and put it in the freezer and chill it up a little before they cut it. I've never done that, but I suppose it might. You know, if you want to do that, fine. Personally, I think that just a nice sharp knife seems to do the trick. Okay. Now that's pretty good. Now if I see if there's any parts that have got a little bit of fat on there, I'm going to cut them off. I'm going to cut that out because I don't want that in there. Even though I refrigerate the stuff after I make it, just to be safe. I don't want to poison myself with spoiled meat. Okay, so that's that. So that looks pretty good. Now, the meat goes into the marinade, just like this. Put it right in there. Now, we want to make sure that we're getting the marinade to all parts of the meat. So we toss it like so. Make sure that it's touching every bit of the meat. There. Now, I'm going to let it set. The way I do it, this takes a while to make this stuff. It's a couple-day project. I take a gallon Ziploc bag. I put the stuff, I just dump it all right in the bag. And then I can just put it in the refrigerator like that. Careful. It's a trick. There's more of the liquid. Now we can just put the meat up. Put it in the bag. Just like that. I'll make sure I get all the marinade because that's got the spices in it. Alright. Now, it's in the bag. So, clean the zip. There we go. We zip it up. We leave a little air in there. Then we can toss it around. Keep it in the refrigerator. I'm going to refrigerate this until this time tomorrow. I'm going to refrigerate it for 24 hours. Just put it on a plate and put it in the refrigerator. Now when it's done, after it's been like this, I can put it, I've got a dehydrator we use, and I picked it up. It was about 15 bucks at the store. Or if you've got one of the electric ranges that'll go way down on low, you can turn it down to warm, and then on one rack you put aluminum foil on a rack above it. You could just drape the meat. Don't let the meat fold over itself. You want to make sure that it's perfectly flat. So that works fine. And then yeah, right on low, and then just watch it. Now when do you know it's done? It's done when it's all crispy. You want to make sure that it just breaks. And here's some that I made. When you break it, it's almost like papery, you know, like that. So that's the way it's going to be safe. And then we refrigerate it also. Put it back in a Ziploc bag and keep it in the refrigerator. And then I can just throw it when I'm going out. I just throw it in the lunch bag and or put some in my pocket, and I've got a little snack. So it's pretty easy to make. and you save a lot of money doing it that way. So the recipe is going to be on the site, nnwnow.com, in the Eat section. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us a line, and we'd be glad to answer that. If you have any recipes, submit them to our recipe exchange on the Eat section, again, on nnwnow.com. And thanks a lot for joining us.